They say ignorance is bliss.
In 1971, the Perron family, Roger and Carolyn and their 5 daughters, moved into a sprawling 200-acre farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island. With its rustic charm and open land, it seemed like a dream home. But from the moment they arrived, something felt off. The air was heavy, time seemed slower, and shadows in the corners of rooms seemed to breathe. What they didn't know was that the house held centuries of darkness waiting to be awakened. Soon after moving in, the Perron family began experiencing strange occurrences. Brooms vanished and reappeared in odd places. Dirt piles formed on the kitchen floor seconds after being swept. Doors creaked open slowly on their own, and cold spots appeared in sunlit rooms. The daughters whispered of hearing children's laughter at night, even when none of them were awake. The house was beginning to stir. Carolyn Perron, the mother, began waking up with deep bruises and scratches on her arms and legs, marks she couldn't explain. At first, she blamed the hard work of moving and cleaning. But as the bruises worsened, and began to appear overnight without pain, she realized something unseen was attacking her while she slept. It was as if the house had chosen her, and it wanted her gone. One night, one of the Perron daughters woke screaming. She had seen a tall ghostly woman standing silently in the corner of her room, her head tilted, her eyes empty. The figure didn't move or speak, it just stared. When the family rushed in, they found nothing. But the daughter insisted she could still feel the woman watching. That night marked the beginning of terrifying nightly apparitions. The Perron family began noticing a horrific stench that would appear suddenly, like rotting flesh or sulfur, then vanish without warning. It drifted through hallways and rooms, often preceding a violent disturbance, slamming doors, flickering lights, or objects thrown across the room. They scrubbed every inch of the house, but the smell always returned. It was as if something decaying and angry moved among them, unseen, but very real. One of the younger daughters discovered an old, porcelain doll in the attic. At first, it seemed harmless. But soon, the doll would appear in places no one had left it, on beds, in closets, even outside the house. One night, they found it sitting upright on the kitchen table, its eyes cracked open wider than before. The family began to believe the doll wasn't just haunted, it was a conduit for something far worse. Carolyn's behavior began to change. She would wander the halls in the middle of the night, speaking in whispers to someone who wasn't there. Her eyes would glaze over, and her voice would drop into a cold monotone. The family watched in horror as their loving mother became someone else, something else. Whatever haunted the house, was slowly taking hold of her soul. Research uncovered the name Bathsheba Sherman, a former resident believed to have practiced witchcraft in the 1800s. Legend claimed she sacrificed her infant to the devil and cursed the land before hanging herself from a tree near the house. Carolyn became convinced Bathsheba's spirit had attached itself to her, feeding off her energy, and trying to destroy the family from within. Bathsheba's hatred turned toward the Perron children. Beds would shake violently at night. Blankets were ripped off. One daughter claimed invisible hands grabbed her legs and tried to drag her under the bed. Another awoke to a cold breath on her face and a voice whispering, "Get out." The attacks grew more frequent and violent, as if something in the house was feeding on their fear. While exploring the basement, Roger Perron discovered a sealed-off room behind a crumbling wall. Inside were broken furniture, children's shoes, and an old wooden crib covered in dust. The air was ice-cold, and the walls felt damp with something that wasn't water. Carolyn claimed she heard a baby crying the moment the door opened, yet no one else could hear it. Something had been left behind, and it was waking up. Late one night, Andrea Perron, the eldest daughter, saw a full-body apparition standing at the top of the staircase. It was a woman with a twisted neck, wearing a tattered gown, her face frozen in a look of pain and fury. The ghost slowly turned, then vanished into the wall. Andrea collapsed in terror, knowing in her heart that what she saw wasn't just a spirit, it was a warning. Desperate and terrified, the Perrons reached out to famed paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. Lorraine, a clairvoyant, immediately sensed the evil presence in the home. She claimed Bathsheba's spirit was not only haunting the house, it was trying to possess Carolyn completely. The Warrens warned that the entity was powerful, ancient, and fueled by violence, and it would not release its grip without a fight. The Warrens held a séance in the dining room, hoping to draw out and confront the entity. As Lorraine channeled the spirit, Carolyn began to scream uncontrollably. Her body lifted from the chair and slammed into the wall with terrifying force. Furniture crashed, candles blew out, and the room filled with an icy wind. Everyone present knew, they weren't just dealing with a haunting. This was a full-blown possession. After the séance, Carolyn changed. Her voice would drop suddenly into a deep growl. She spoke in languages no one could understand. She stopped eating and stared at nothing for hours. The Perron daughters were terrified of their own mother. Whatever spirit had entered her during the ritual wasn't leaving. Carolyn was still in the house, but something else was living inside her. Lorraine Warren entered the master bedroom alone, hoping to make contact with the spirit. As she touched the wooden dresser, a vision overwhelmed her, Bathsheba, holding a bloodied infant, screaming in rage before vanishing into fire. Lorraine collapsed, weeping, whispering one word over and over, sacrifice. The truth was clear now, Bathsheba hadn't just haunted the land, she had bound her soul to it through blood. Ed and Lorraine Warren performed a desperate exorcism to free Carolyn from the grip of Bathsheba. The air crackled with tension as Carolyn fought the dark presence inside her. Her body convulsed violently, eyes rolling back, voice alternating between her own and a chilling growl. The Warrens held firm, chanting prayers and wielding holy relics, fighting for the Perron family's survival. As the exorcism reached its peak, the temperature dropped and the house began to shake. Carolyn let out an unearthly scream that didn't sound human. Shadows poured from her mouth, and for one final moment, a ghastly figure appeared behind her, Bathsheba, twisted in agony, shrieking as she was torn from the physical world. Then, silence. The entity was gone. For now. In the days after the exorcism, the house grew strangely quiet. No more whispers. No shadows. No cold spots. Carolyn slowly returned to herself, weak but alive. The daughters began sleeping through the night again. It was the first peace the family had known in months. But deep down, they all knew, something had changed forever, and the scars would never truly fade. Though the worst seemed over, the Perrons never truly felt alone again. Doors still creaked without cause. Shadows lingered longer than they should. And sometimes, in the dead of night, Carolyn swore she felt cold breath on the back of her neck. The entity may have been banished, but the land remained cursed. The house watched in silence, waiting. The Perron family remained in the house for several years after the exorcism, unable to move due to financial hardship. Though the violence had stopped, the presence remained, silent, watching, remembering. The daughters grew up with fear etched into their memories. Even today, they recall the terror vividly. For them, Harrisville wasn't just a haunted house, it was a chapter of their lives written in darkness and dread.